Matthew and Leland here from MiniWarGaming.com, and it's time for another video in our series of reviewing the new Adeptus Mechanicus Skitarii. That's right, we got the book and the digital version because that came out just this past Saturday. We're recording this on the Monday, which will probably go out on the Tuesday, so it's still pretty new. I know that the rules have been leaked, but now we've got everything official.
Yep.
So we're going to spend the next few videos. Our goal is to make probably another 4 videos this week that will be released this week, covering the rest of the releases, meaning the Onager Dunewalkers, as well as covering all the stuff in the codex, from the formations and detachments to the warlord traits and new objectives to the relics.
Yeah. Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and now we can kind of talk about how they will play, potentially, you know, the math hammer here, and kind of the allies and everything else like that. But this first video is going to be about the Onager Dunewalker, so we're going to do that. And then the next video that we're going to start covering, we're going to start talking about the relics and other special rules. We're not going to talk about the formations and attachments until the next one, because that'll also factor into a lot of other things. So at the link below will be the next video, which will be in the MiniWarGaming vault. So you can click that after you watch this one. So let's start talking about the Dunewalker.
Yeah.
So why don't you run us through the basics of what is an Onager Dunewalker?
Well, I actually really like this guy. So far, he's the standout in the book for me. At 90 points, you have an AV, like a 12, 12, 11 walker, which in and of itself it's nice. It's a nice, durable thing. But it's all the extra little bits and bobs that he gets. Like, for instance, when you just look at his basic war gear, right off the bat, they have a 6-up invulnerable save. Which really,
by itself, for a vehicle, is a pain, because unlike infantry, you're not dealing a lot of glancing and penetrating hits to it. So even just negating one of the 6 of those can really make a difference in the game.
Now, what I like about that, though, is that when you're taking multiple ones, that invulnerable save gets better. So for every other Dunewalker you have in that squadron, it's getting +1 invulnerable save. Within 4 inches, anyway. So
yeah, it has to be within 4 inches.
Yeah,
that's
so
the big.
There is a caveat there. But still, potentially having that one Dunewalker in the front of the squadron with a 4-up invulnerable save, that's going to be a pain to deal with.
Now, I've thought about that. I'm like, the only way you could get all 3 of them with the 4-up invulnerable is to put them in a triangle formation, and so that they're all within 4 inches of each other. And I think that would actually be an ineffective way to run them, unless you're not playing with any terrain, in which case they'll have plenty of line of sight. But most likely with their size and the fact that they're a vehicle squadron, it's going to be hard to maneuver them really well. So probably the way that I would play them would be to have the closest one be the middle one. And that way, because you have a 4-inch coherency, which means if you look at it as there being a middle one instead of it being a triangle, the middle one will always have a 4-up invuln if all 3 of them are still alive, because he has to be within 4 inches of the other 2. So you kind of keep him out front, and that way the first hits go on to him. As soon as he's dead, though, that means they're down to a 6-up.
But you know what? The one thing to consider with all this is that you don't really need to have all 3 with the 4-up invulnerable save anyway.
No.
Because with how big they are and how far spaced out, it's not like you're going to be getting hit by multiple blasts.
No. And there's also going to be cover that might go on another one of them.
And as soon as you lose one anyway, you're losing that 1 point of invulnerability, so you'd be going up to a 5+ at best. So you really just need to make sure that that lead one has the 4-up.
It allows you a bit more control, because the one out front doesn't need to have any cover.
Yeah.
Unless you're dealing with night fighting or some sort of psychic power that is going to grant them shrouded or stealth. The 4-up is the best you're going to get for cover anyways, and for the most part. And so having him out front kind of lets you not worry about cover for him, whereas other stuff you have to make sure you position them right, which could grant other people cover.
Yeah. And
that could throw off what you're going to be doing with them as well. So that is a nice little.
It is.
It's a nice little thing, because a 4-up invuln on a vehicle is a pain.
It is.
Absolutely a pain. Especially it's armor value 12.
Yeah. Any sort of
three hull points each too.
Yes, that is right. So, but that's the first thing that immediately jumps to my mind with the Dunewalker. I love how durable it is. I love how it's going to stick around for a while. You know, providing really bad rolls. But the other thing is the Eradication beamer. Now, for a stock weapon, it's kind of weird in that it gets better the closer you are to the target.
It depends what you mean by better, though. Because if you're faced by
stronger,
10
better
orc boys, you want to be further away from them to use the best weapon against them. Okay. If you're up against a vehicle, you want to be close.
Okay, so when I say better, I mean like stronger, like a higher strength, better AP value, right? Because, yeah, depending on where you are, I believe it's increments of 9 inches.
Yes.
So 0 to 9, 9 to 18, 18 to, what is it, 27?
Actually, it goes from 18 to 36 at that point.
18 to 36.
Yeah.
it has a very different profile. So I mean, your 0 to 9 inches, that's a tank killer right there. It's strength 10, AP 1.
Now the only problem though is that you have to remember that it's not just the strength and the AP that change, it's also the blast. It goes from being a single shot to being a single small blast to being a large blast. Whereas you have things like, I remember playing against the conversion beamer, I believe it's called.
Yep.
It's something that you see on some of the Forge World models. And the conversion beamer is always a large blast, and it just gets stronger the further you are away.
Yeah.
And so you always want to be as far away as possible because you're always getting your large blast. Whereas this thing, it's more like it has 3 different weapons. And those weapons are different range profiles. So you can never fire them both, or all 3 of them, but they all have different functions. So if you're firing against a horde, I'd rather fire a large blast strength 6 AP 5.
No, fair enough.
If you're firing against a group of Marine or Marine equivalent, anything with 3 up save, I'd rather fire a strength 8 AP 3 small blast. If you're firing against a vehicle, strength 10 AP 1 would be nice.
But that's where one of the strengths of this weapon profile comes in. You're always going to know what's across the table from you, right? So if you're fighting orcs, you're going to want to keep your Dunewalker at a distance. There's no reason to get closer. But say you're fighting something that has a lot of high toughness or high armor value stuff, maybe then you want to get in a little bit closer. It offers a lot of versatility in that regard.
Yeah, it does. It definitely gives you options.
Yeah,
you might be a little restrictive options, but they're still options.
Yeah. But you're not forced to take one weapon profile and hope for the best.
Now there is some synergistic stuff that you have to think about as well. For example, there's one upgrade that you can give them that we will talk about. We'll talk about it right now, which is basically everything within 6 inches. Mm-hmm. If you charge something that's within 6 inches of a Dunewalker, you don't get a bonus attack. So it's essentially defensive grenades. You still get your Furious Charge or whatever it is, but you lose your bonus attack. So if something has Rage, it has 2 bonus attacks.
Yeah.
And so that means that you're going to want them to be close, which puts less options. On top of that, the one formation that it can be part of gives a 12-inch leadership 10 bubble. So unless your army is going to sit back, which in 40k 7th edition is not something you want to be forced to do given Maelstrom missions and objectives. So it doesn't, I don't think the weapon quite synergizes with the other benefits that the Dunewalker has. But it's still nice, because you could just, because it's a large blast, you could just bring one.
Yeah.
Completely naked, no upgrades, and say, well, I'm not going to give him the upgrade to get the 6 inch. I won't worry about the formation that gives him the 12-inch bubble. I'll just spend 90 points. Heck, you could do 90 points 3 times if you want to do 3 heavy support. And each of them can fire a large blast strength 6 AP 5. And that's not nothing.
No. I mean, it's still high strength for a lot of things.
Yeah. And it's sitting back and just firing that large blast.
Yeah. You can still force a lot of armor saves.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's strength 6. So against Marines, you're forcing a lot of armor saves. Against smaller things, you're going to be insta-killing and ignoring their armor.
Yeah, anything with a human or Eldar profile, you're going to be insta-killing.
Yeah, no feel, no pain. All that kind of stuff will be negated. So that is one of the options. Now it does have another special rule we should cover before we hit the other weapons.
Yep.
And that is the crawler. So how does that work?
So basically the crawler is, there's a good thing and a bad thing to it. So the crawler, it can't run, ever.
That's the bad thing.
That's the bad thing. But considering it's a weapons platform, like it's shooting, I don't think most people are really going to care about that.
No, it depends how you play your terrain.
Fair enough.
Because I like to set up terrain that there's at least 1 or 2 line of sight blocking things. And so there's going to be, usually, no matter what you're playing, everything is going to want to reposition at some point or another. And a run is a perfect way to reposition, especially because no matter what you bring in formation-wise, it's always going to have Crusader.
That is true.
Which gives it the extra running capabilities.
But to me, it's not that must-have ability for a walk.
It's not as big a deal. I do agree
it's a nice. My friends would refer to it as a win more type of thing. It's a great ability to have, but it's not game-breaking or it's not mandatory. Now, the good thing, though, is that it always ignores difficult and dangerous terrain.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter what it's walking through, what it's going through, it's going to get to where it's going.
Which, fluff-wise, you look at it as this big spider walker thing, it should be able to get through stuff no problem.
Yeah, so that means you can park it in a bunch of ruins and reposition it within those ruins without issue. You always know you're going to be getting that 6 inches.
Yeah. And ignoring dangerous terrain comes up more often than you might think, which is kind of nice. So it's nice that you just get to ignore that. Still gets its initiative dropped if it charges through difficult terrain. There's nothing.
But it's initiative too.
Yeah. It's not really a close combat walker, anyways.
I mean, who's striking after it normally? Like, not much, right?
Yeah.
Most things have a higher than initiative.
Well, and it's only base strength 5, no AP. There is a very expensive upgrade you can give it to give it essentially a dreadnought close combat weapon, but I don't think you would ever want. It's a 25-point upgrade to give it strength ×2. It also gets an extra attack at initiative 10.
Yeah.
So it basically goes from 1 attack to 2 attacks.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that upgrade will ever.
Too situational.
Yeah, because you have plenty of other things. Now, I am always an advocate for bringing variety in your list, even if there's something else that's better than it. But that doesn't mean giving that other thing a bad upgrade. It's like, yes, I'll bring this unit, even though there are other units that points-wise can be more effective. But it doesn't mean I'm going to then handicap myself even further by giving stupid upgrades to that unit. So I don't think I would ever bring a 25-point upgrade on a 90-point model that's not close combat based to give it 1 extra attack from its 1. That's, you know, mind you, strength 10, AP 1, but it's weapon skill 3. So you're going to be hitting on 4s unless you got your Doctrine Imperatives on that's giving them +3 weapon skill or something, and then you're hitting on 3s. But that's a lot of very situational.
I might play around with it a little bit just to see when and if it comes into play.
If it was like a 5 or 10-point upgrade, sure. But 25 points on a 90-point model? And there's nothing else that can take it. So that was built for the Onager Dunewalker, Dunecrawlers, sorry, unless there's something else that will be coming out in a supplement or whatever that can share the Skitarii vehicle special equipment.
Yeah.
So not close combat. It's not a close combat walker.
No, you definitely want this sitting back and shooting. And that much is evidenced by the fact, you look at the other weapons that it can take.
Yes.
And that's the other cool thing. It can actually take 4 different weapon profiles when you factor in the Eradication Beamer. So just going down the list, the very next one that it can upgrade to is the twin-linked heavy phosphor weapon, the blaster.
That's strength 6, AP 3, 3 shots, Illuminogen. And that Illuminogen is when you successfully wound, an unsaved wound, then they get you can put a little marker on them, and they get -1 cover, and people can re-roll their charge distance to charge them.
Yeah, and I like that one because it's a marine killer.
Yeah.
And you know, anything that can take out that armor 3 that's huge. That's big.
The other thing we should talk about before we go through all these weapons as well is one of the upgrades it has for its vehicle equipment is a 5-point upgrade to get a Cognus heavy stubber. Yeah. And a Cognus heavy stubber is just a heavy stubber, so 3 strength 4 AP 6 shots. And Cognus allows it to be ballistic skill 2 and snap firing. Not so useful against flyers because it's only strength 4. It'll be more useful for Overwatch. But I don't even care about the Cognus part. It's just the fact that for just 5 points, you can have this twin-linked heavy phosphor blaster. So it's a picture of a squad of 3, because I think most of the time you're going to see them in squads of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you have 9 strength 6 AP 3 shots and 9 strength 4. And the strength 6 AP 3 are twin-linked.
Yeah.
So and the heavy stubber just on its own is like not that impressive, but all of a sudden when you start stacking that up, that's you're for one thing you're ignoring the 3+ saves, and then you're throwing a bunch of extra cheap shots just to ignore a couple more.
Just make them roll dice, right?
Yeah. So against Terminators, even though it's AP 3, it's still going to be good because you don't have the AP, but now you've doubled your number of shots, even though it's a lower strength.
Yeah, it can put out a lot of shots for a relatively cheap price.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, because that would be a total of 110 points.
Yeah.
With the twin-linked heavy phosphor blaster. So you're still looking at a 330-point squad, but I think it'll be able to put out enough firepower to make up for that.
I think so too. Yeah. So moving on from the phosphor blaster, we then go on to the Neutron laser with a Cognus heavy stubber.
So this is Cognus heavy stubber, not the one I'm talking about. It actually
you can still buy
another Cognus heavy stubber on top of that.
Now, this is the weapon profile that I really like.
Me too. This is my favorite.
I love the fact that the Neutron laser itself, it's a strength 10 AP 1 blast.
Concussive.
It's also concussive, yeah.
So that's the one where you drop to initiative 1 if you have an unsaved wound. So that'll be useful against obviously your bigger creatures because anything else will be dead and won't.
Or against walkers or not walkers.
Walkers.
Things like dread knights or riptides.
Yeah, your bigger guys, your monsters creatures.
Those bigger guys. That's going to be really nice. I really like this one, and even more so than the fact that it has the blast. Like the blast, that to me is just the cherry on top.
Yeah, now it can be a Terminator killer because a single strength 10 AP 1 shot, that's a vehicle killer.
Yeah.
To get it a blast profile, now it's a Terminator killer.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I really like that one. I personally think this is going to be the most played variant.
Well, when you factor in that as well, that it comes with a heavy stubber, and then you can give it another heavy stubber for just 5 more points. All of a sudden, once again, let's talk about having 3. Although, points-wise, maybe you are going to be playing with 1 or 2, who knows. But let's talk about having 3. Those are 3 strength 10 AP 1 blasts, and then 18 strength 4 AP 6 shots. And that's a lot.
That is.
So the nice thing about that is the strength 10 AP1 is a blast, so it's still useful against the smaller guys as well, against Termagants or Orc Boys or your line troops for Tau or Imperial Guard. It's not the most effective white that you want to be shooting at.
It's going to be overkill on a lot of things.
But then you throw in the 18 strength 4 shots, and that'll help against those.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're up against Terminators, well, then you got 3 strength 10 AP1 blasts, and if that doesn't do the trick, 18 strength 4 shots. And that's going to force them to do a few more saves and lose a couple more guys. Yeah. So what I mean by that is it's actually effective against an elite thing, and it's also semi-effective against a swarm thing. Yeah. And so because both weapons work well together, and I like that. I like when you have multiple weapons and they work well together, because other things sometimes, like I've noticed for some of the regular Vanguard or the Rangers, some of their weapons don't jive with each other. You upgrade some special weapons, it's like, well, this one's good at this, but the rest of their weapons are still good at something else.
And that's what we were discussing with them. Like the Skitarii themselves were an all or nothing type of thing.
Exactly.
Whereas the Dunewalker, it seems like no matter what weapon profile you're taking, it has answers to a whole bunch of things.
It's more versatile. Now it pays the price for that in points. Like if you want to bring a 2 or 3 squad, 2 or 3 walker squad, then you are taking a good chunk of your army. So you are depending on it doing good damage. But I think it could do that.
I think so.
I think it can.
I think so.
Then we have our last weapon, which is the most interesting out of all of them.
Yeah, I'm really not sure how to feel about the Icarus array. First off, it's a 35-point upgrade.
So it's expensive.
It's expensive, but what you get for it is quite a bit. Like you're getting three weapons.
Yeah, it actually counts as 3 weapons that you can all fire. You don't just choose one to fire. At first, when I read it, I thought it would be like there's 3 weapons and you get to choose one, kind of like the Obliterator's weapons or something.
So this puts out, for one model, it puts out an obscene amount of shots. Now the big detriment to this one, though, is that each one of these weapon profiles has Skyfire.
So yeah, I think the opposite. I think that's the point. Is that if you pay this 35 points, you're essentially saying it's no longer an infantry killer; it's a flyer killer.
And I agree with you. I agree that the point is to make it a flyer killer, or at the very least a skimmer killer.
Yes.
Right? But Elder players are going to hate this.
Yeah, because it's skimmer and and flyers.
But I feel that it loses a lot of the versatility that it had with the other profiles. Now, you can sort of make up for it with the sheer amount of firepower it puts out, because I think it can put out, what, like nine shots?
It's 8 shots in total. What you have is you have a missile launcher at strength 7 AP2, 1 shot, Skyfire. They're all 4-foot range. They're all 48-inch range. Then you have a rocket launcher, which is your 5 shots at strength 6 AP4, ignore cover. And then you have an autocannon, 2 strength 7 AP4 shots.
I just realized something.
What's that?
If with Skyfire, you're snap shooting on anything on the ground. You're not firing the rocket launcher at anything on the ground, because it's a blast.
It's not a blast.
Isn't it?
No, if it would make sense to be a blast.
Okay, never mind.
Because you can't fire blast at flyers.
Ignore me.
No, it's heavy 5. It's 5 shots. And then you have the autocannon, which is 2 shots, but it has interceptor and twin linked. Yeah. And it specifically talks about the fact that if you use the interceptor rule in the autocannon, then in the subsequent shooting phase, you can still fire the other 2 weapons at another target, even if you wanted to. So I think it'll be an incredibly effective anti-flyer platform.
Oh, it will. I agree completely. And I mean, if you know you're going up against somebody with a lot of flyers, say the Demon Flying Circus or something like that, it's going to be great against those things.
Well, because it works against flying monsters creatures even when they're on the ground, and skimmers when they're on the ground too. So that strength 7 AP2 shot all of a sudden is good against those monsters creatures, and 5 strength 6 shots that ignore cover. That won't be as useful against most flying monsters creatures out there, but there's a bunch of the tyrannid ones that are only 4-up saves, so that'll just annihilate them. And then you got the 2 twin-linked strength 7 autocannon shots. That's more like an all-purpose. That'll be good. That's best used against the flyers, of course. So,
but I feel that this one is a lot more situational. Like if you're going up against, say, a Space Marine force or an Imperial Guard force, you're not going to get your points worth out of it as much.
You have to know that there's going to be skimmers or flyers.
And now we're getting into the realm of
flying monsters creatures. It doesn't seem to be quite as effective against. It'll be more like skimmers and flyers, as long as they're not like super high armor value. So not like Necron skimmers necessarily. No. Armor 13 will be out of the range of its strength 6, and just in glancing range of its 2 strength 7 weapons.
Yeah. But yeah, Eldar are really going to hate this one.
Yes.
Yeah, that much is for sure.
Anything with light skimmers is going to hate it.
Yeah.
So did we miss any of the equipment? Let's see. It has, now the other thing to note about the Icarus array is the Dunecrawler can normally take smoke launchers as an upgrade, just like every other vehicle. Not in this book, but just in vehicles in 40K in total, or in general. But it can't if it takes the Icarus array. So it's too busy looking at the sky to pop smoke.
It's a really odd decision.
I know, it's just you're not firing. Maybe because it has interceptor? I don't know. It's weird.
I'm not against it, but at the same time, it just seems weird.
Yes, no, you can't take smoke launchers if you're anti-flyer.
Yeah, it's just very odd.
Like, well, why not? I have to give up shooting in order to use smoke launchers, so... Yeah. I guess my interceptor could allow me to shoot anyways, but no, because it forfeits your next shooting when you intercept. So it's a strange restriction.
It is.
I don't know why it's there. It doesn't seem game-breaking either way.
No.
It wouldn't be game-breaking if it was allowed either, so it's just whatever. And we already talked about the other ones. We talked about the heavy stubber, the mine scanner probe, that's the one that gives the defensive grenades equivalent to everybody within 6 inches, and the Cognus manipulator is the strength times 2 AP1. It's basically a Dreadnought close combat weapon, but gives you the extra attack at initiative 10.
And Haywire.
And Haywire, but your strength 10 AP1. In fact, I'd almost think Haywire is kind of counterproductive. Would you rather, if you had a strength 10 AP1 close combat weapon, would you want a Haywire?
How would that interact together?
Well, it's not strength 10 against vehicles, it's Haywire. Haywire replaces the strength when you're hitting vehicles.
So there's almost no point to the AP1.
Well, AP1, if you roll 6 on Haywire, it's a penetrating hit, and the AP1 would come into fact there. But Haywire on a strength 10 AP1 weapon is almost annoying.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, I don't want it to be Haywire. I want strength 10. Because with Haywire, you roll a 2 to a 5, it's glancing, and then a 6 is pen.
Well, especially if you're dealing with low-end transports like rhinos and whatnot.
Even if you're up against an armor 13 thing, sure, the 2 no longer does anything, because you're looking at 10 plus 2 is 12. The 3 still glances, but then the 4 and the 5 and the 6 are all pens, whereas the Haywire now makes it, you get the 2 as a glance, but you lose the 4 and the 5 as penetrating hits. So I hate this weapon. I think it's totally pointless. If it was 5 points, I would probably always throw it on because, hey, if we get the close combat, having the extra attack plus strength 10 AP1, hey, even the Haywire, sure, what the heck. But 25 points?
Yeah, it's...
No.
I'm definitely starting to change my tune on it.
No. Everything else is great. I can see all the 4 weapon profiles, with or without the extra heavy stubbers, being good in certain situations. There might be 1 or 2 that become the favorites of the meta, but the Cognus.
No, at least that thing doesn't come stock though.
Yeah, thankfully.
At least we're not paying for it.
Unless you're paying for
we're not paying for it in the profile, so that is sort of the saving grace. You can take it if you want. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but at least we don't have to pay for it in advance.
Well, that is the Onager Dunecrawler. So let us know your thoughts on the Dunecrawler in the comments below, what you think is good. If we got any of the rules wrong, because, hey, we're just reviewing this, so we might miss something or misread something, who knows? Or maybe there's something glaringly awesome about it that's just right in front of us, but we're missing it because we haven't really played with it yet or had the chance to see how it works in the meta. Let us know in the comments below. And go ahead and click the link in the video description below to go watch our next video where we're going to talk about the relics of Mars, we're going to talk about the warlord traits and all those extra things in the book. So click that link below. It is a Vault video, so if you're not a Vault member, you can still click it, get a 7-day free trial, and check out all our extra videos. And if you don't want to stay a Vault member, you can still cancel. But if you do stay a Vault member, it really helps support us and helps us make these videos, which we do really appreciate. So thanks for watching. Happy wargaming.